Welcome dear students, I am Pooja Parishwad. This is the video on income from house property part 3. Today we are going to solve one small practical problem on income from house property. Let's start. It's a problem to ascertain the annual value of 3 different let out house properties. First, we have to read the problem, what information has given related to these 3 house property 1, house property 2, house property 3. Information related to municipal value, annual rent, fair rent and standard rent is given in this way. Vacancy period for house property 1 is 1 month. There is no vacancy for house property 2. In case of house property 3, it is 2 months. Unrealized rent for house property 2 is rupees 2000. For house property 3, it is rupees 1500. Also, municipal taxes at 10% of municipal value paid. This information is given. For calculating municipal taxes, you have to consider the municipal value of these 3 houses, that is rupees 10,000 for house property 1, 15,000 for house property 2 and 12,000 for house property 3. This information is given. In the previous video, we already discussed how to compute annual value of let out house property. The students who have not seen that videos needs to see the previous videos and also subscribe the channel. The steps of determining annual value shown in the previous video. In that way, we will solve the problem. Let's start. Computation of annual value when Rent Control Act is applicable, because in this problem standard rent as per Rent Control Act is given. Okay. Now in case of house property 1, for computing the gross annual value, you have to follow the 3 steps. Step 1, you have to compare municipal value with fair rent and take the higher amount, that is rupees 10,000 in this problem. Again, this 10,000 you have to compare with the standard rent rupees 8,000, and here you have to take the lower amount, that is rupees 8,000. It is also called as expected reasonable rent. Now this 8,000, that is expected reasonable rent, how to compare with annual or actual rent received or receivable, that is rupees 6,000, and take the higher amount, that is rupees 8,000, which is gross annual value of house property 1. Okay. Now in this problem, vacancy period for house property 1 is given for 1 month. Okay. Now if vacancy period is given in the problem, then question is when to deduct the vacancy period rent from gross annual value. In the previous video, I already told you one trick, that when GAV is equal to annual or actual rent, then only you can deduct the vacancy period rent from gross annual value. but in this case GAV is rupees 8,000 and annual or actual rent of house property 1 is rupees 6,000. It means it is not equal to GAV. In this case, you cannot deduct the vacancy period rent. Okay, here in this case, you cannot deduct the vacancy period rent. That's why even this house property 1 is vacant for 1 month, but the shortfall is not due to vacancy alone. That's why you cannot deduct the vacancy period rent from gross annual value. That's why adjusted GAV in this problem or in this property is rupees 8,000. Okay. Now, from this GAV, you have to deduct the municipal taxes paid, and it is given at the rate 10% of municipal value. The municipal value of house property 1 is 10,000 and 10% on municipal value is 1,000. Okay, and you have to deduct the 1,000 from gross annual value, then you will get the net annual value, that is rupees 7,000. And for house property 1, the net annual value is rupees 7,000. Is it clear? Do you get it? Do you understand? Okay. These simple steps you have to follow. Now, compute the annual value of house property 2. The same process here also you have to follow. First, you have to determine the gross annual value by applying the 3 steps. First step is you have to compare municipal value with fair rent and take the higher amount. Here it is 25,000. Again, this 25,000 you have to compare with standard rent rupees 20,000 and take the lower amount. Here it is 20,000. Now this 20,000 have to compare with actual rent received or receivable excluding unrealized rent rupees 2,000. Now see, in this case for house property 2nd, here unrealized rent rupees 2,000 is given and annual rent of house property 2 is rupees 24,000. That's why after excluding unrealized rent from annual rent, here actual rent received or receivable is rupees 22,000, isn't it? Okay, that's why in this case here the actual rent received or receivable is rupees 22,000 after deducting unrealized rent from annual rent rupees 24,000. Now this actual rent you have to compare with the amount of second step, that is 20,000, and take the higher amount which is GAV rupees 22,000 for house property second. Okay. Now from this GAV, that is gross annual value of rupees 22,000, you have to deduct the municipal taxes paid by the owner. See here, when municipal taxes paid by any other party, in that case it is clear cut given in the problem. When in the problem it is not given, it means the municipal taxes paid only by the owner, and you can deduct that municipal taxes from gross annual value. And this point is necessary to remember. Now in case of house property second, municipal value is 15,000, and on this 15,000, 10% municipal taxes is rupees 1,500. You have to deduct that 1,500 municipal taxes from gross annual value. Then you will get the net annual value. Okay, and that is rupees 20,500. That's why net annual value for house property 2 is rupees 20,500. Okay. Now see the computation of annual value of house property 3. You have to follow the same process. First determine the gross annual value by comparing municipal value with fair rent and take the higher amount. Here it is 16,000 is the higher amount. Again this 16,000 you have to compare with the standard rent rupees 22,000 and take the lower amount, that is 16,000. This is the amount of step second. Now this 16,000 you have to compare with the annual rent by excluding unrealized rent. And for house property third, unrealized rent given in the problem is 1,500. See in the problem what is given. See here, in case of house property 3, unrealized rent is rupees 1,500. Annual rent of house property 3 is 18,000. By excluding unrealized rent 1,500 from 18,000, you will get the 16,500, that is actual rent received or receivable in case of house property 3. Also vacancy period of 2 months are given in case of house property 3. You have to consider that vacancy period rent also. Okay. Now see here, after considering the given information, here you have to compare 16,000 with 16,500, which is actual rent received or receivable after excluding unrealized rent of rupees 1,500 in case of house property second. Okay, then you will get the higher amount 16,500, that is the gross annual value of house property 3. Okay, now in case of house property 3, vacancy period is also given. Okay, we already seen that part. Now vacancy period of 2 months is given in the problem, and here in this case, see, the actual rent received or receivable 16,500 is equal to gross annual value. Means in this case GAV 16,500 is equal to annual or actual rent received or receivable. Okay, that's why here in this case the vacancy period rent can be deduct from the gross annual value. Okay, and for 2 months vacancy, the vacancy period rent is 3,000. That is the monthly rent 1,500 multiplied by 2 months, it is 3,000. After deducting this 3,000, you will get the adjusted GAV is rupees 13,500. Okay, now from this adjusted GAV, again you have to deduct the municipal taxes paid, and it is 10% of municipal value. Municipal value of house property 3 is 12,000. On that 12,000, 10% municipal taxes, that is rupees 1,200. This 1,200 you have to deduct from adjusted GAV, that is 13,500. Then you will get the net annual value rupees 12,300. Okay, this is the simple process of determining the annual value of let out house property. Thank you my dear students. Please subscribe and like the video. Okay.